Behind every man, the cliche goes, there is a woman. And behind every cliche, you can usually find some element of truth. That's certainly the case when it comes to men and their health. Our cover story is reported now by our CBS News colleague, Dr. Emily Sine of The Early Show.
Girls want yogurt, juice.
I will get the phone and leave here.
Hold on.
Vanilla yogurt.
Vanilla yogurt, yes. Let me get some vanilla yogurt.
As a father, there is nothing my husband Avery won't do.
Dad, you cut this off.
He'll fix breakfast,
Justin and Harry, spread out, please.
coach soccer,
Ramiro, you're always in the middle, please. That's what midfield means.
and love doing it all.
Harry, turn the jets on, go!
He's a regular new age guy. But there's one thing he just wasn't doing well: taking care of his own health. As a wife and physician, I constantly worried, but he never seemed to.
A lot of people just won't act when they have symptoms. Chest pain, shortness of breath, severe headaches that suddenly come on. Guys always think, not always, but mostly think, this is going to go away.
Dr. Eli Newberger is a Harvard physician and author of The Men They Will Become.
A lot of men don't get the preventive care that these days, in 2004, we know will keep them alive.
In fact, men die on average 5 to 6 years earlier than women, the so-called longevity gap. Car accidents, suicide, and alcoholism all affect men more than women, as do heart disease, stroke, and cancer, the leading causes of death. In fact, by age 36, women outnumber men. By age 100, there's only one guy left standing for every 4 women. So why don't men take better care of themselves?
I think a lot of guys are afraid of what they don't know, and they don't want to find out. And that related to that is the problem that we call denial. Take, for example, the problem of male depression.
I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I was ashamed of the fact that conceivably I had a clinical depression, because this was 20 years ago and you didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about it.
Mike Wallace, that's right, that Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes fame, was weary from the highly publicized Westmoreland case.
Retired U.S. Army General William Westmoreland today filed suit against CBS Incorporated.
Westmoreland claimed he was libeled by the 1982 CBS documentary on the Vietnam War. Wallace, the correspondent, found himself in court.
I was on trial, in effect, for my life. On trial for libel.
The suit was eventually dropped, but the challenge to his credibility sent him into a spiral of despair, something Wallace and even his own doctor could not acknowledge.
I don't get depressed. That's what I said. The general practitioner says, Mike, you're not depressed.
Only his wife, Mary, saw the reality.
Didn't like the general practitioner, right?
No, because he said, don't do anything about it. It'll be bad for your reputation, and you know, just you'll get through it. And that made me very mad, because I knew by that time you don't just get through it, you need help.
You were the one who said, hey.
That's true, but you already knew that. You just weren't admitting it, which is so typical of men who say, I'm all right, there's nothing wrong with me. In fact, I think you said that this morning about something.
Do you think men in general have a harder time recognizing this?
Yes, I do.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's not manly. What do you mean you're depressed? Depressed? Come on.
It's expected of women to be depressed, and you know, we've always said this forever, that women have these ups and downs and everything, but a man really has not been allowed to feel depressed until lately.
Depression is just one disease for which there's been little advocacy for men. In fact, men's health generally gets much less attention than women's health issues. As a result, few people realize that men get depression, or that 5 million men have osteoporosis. and that men can even get breast cancer. Prostate cancer, a disease of the male urinary tract, strikes nearly 250,000 men every year. Yet awareness remains low, especially among African American men, where it is the most commonly diagnosed male cancer. Washington lawyer Wes Williams exercised regularly, had a healthy diet, and received routine medical care. Prostate cancer never crossed his mind.
Did you ever have a conversation with any of your friends about prostate cancer in any meaningful way before you were diagnosed?
Never. Absolutely never. Just because I'm literate, I knew how to spell prostate, but that's about as far as we went.
Women talk about health issues. Men really don't. So I think we need to say it's okay to talk about this.
His wife, Karen, an advocate for breast cancer research, not only pushed him into treatment, but into activism. Williams is now the head of the National Prostate Cancer Coalition, a group dedicated to raising awareness, a task that is helped by the number of high-profile men stepping forward to say they, too, are fighting the disease. Yankees manager Joe Torre, actors Robert De Niro and Mandy Patinkin, and Secretary of State Colin Powell, just to name a few.
This is a pandemic. This is something that we all need to be conscious of, but men don't want to talk about it outward.
Which is where we women come in. Studies show married men live longer than single men, and it's no surprise. When men marry, many get their own health manager in a wife, a role I explore in my book, From Boys to Men.
I learned that male vulnerability starts long before old age. Baby boys are more likely to die from everything from premature birth to accidental drowning. They're even bitten by dogs more than girls. And as they grow up, boys tend to grow away from routine health care. Men visit doctors less often than women. In one survey, 25% of men say they'd wait as long as possible before seeing a doctor, even if they were in pain.
My name is Dr. Bell. Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
Dr. David Bell is trying to change that.
Well, I came today to get tested. I've been tested yesterday.
The Columbia Young Men's Clinic gives men who would otherwise avoid care a medical home.
Many of them haven't seen a physician for at least 3 to 4 years.
And what finally brings men to the health center?
The majority of the guys hear about it from an important female in their life.
So the cliche is true. Behind every man,
It's women. It's their mothers, it's their sisters, it's their daughters who care for them, worry about them.
even Harvard-trained physician Dr. Eli Newberger needed a push from his wife, Carolyn, after he found a lump on his back.
And she pushed and pushed. I don't like to say nag, but I guess you could call it that. And finally, I showed it to a surgeon.
The surgeon removed the lump, which turned out to be a serious skin tumor.
But who saved my life? It was Carolyn.
But it likes to.
This one really felt, hey, you're sick. Acknowledge it. Go to see a shrink. I don't need to do that.
That's the hardest thing, to convince them to get help. Most men, as you know, are bad patients. So,
Yes.
Are you a bad patient?
Oh, I'm a terrible patient.
But Wes Williams is learning to change, and he's not alone. Men's health advocates are reaching out to more and more men, like this screening van at a Braves baseball game in Atlanta, and this health checkup on Capitol Hill.
What happens very frequently is that when guys start to get treatment, they see that they really feel better. Their relationships improve, their job performance improve.
Men need to know that taking care of their own health is not a knock against their masculinity. If they need our help to get there, that's okay too. Giving someone the gift of health may be the best Father's Day gift of all.